Hi, I'm Anjali Bhimani. You may know me from Ms. Marvel. You may know me from Critical Role or D20. You may not know me from Adam. It's entirely possible. And hi, nice to meet you. And you are watching the Points of Experience podcast.
Coming up is a guest that really needs no introduction because she just gave you one, but I'm going to give you mine. But if you don't know Anjali Bhimani, she is truly one of the brightest, enthusiastic, genuine forces in the industry, in the entertainment world, in the nerd culture, but also just in life. I've had the pleasure to speak with Anjali before, and she was so generous. We'll get into this into the episode, but the true care and tenderness she took with somebody pursuing a similar career path, and words that kind of probably, is just who she is, and the way she would speak to anybody kind of changed my life in a way, because it just reminded me of all the things that I knew about myself. But to have encouragement from someone like her, it was illuminating, because anybody could give me this information, and she just kind of instilled that, like, you are enough. The basic thing that I know tons of people have told me before, but the way she said it, it's not about even her status, because, she's worked on amazing things like, Marvel's Miss Marvel, Apex Legends as Rampart, Overwatch as Symmetra, and all the other great things she talked about, like Critical Role and D20, and every TV show you can imagine. She's been all over the place. That aside, just as a human being, she has a way of connecting, and I think that's what makes her such a phenomenal performer. Because she understands that life is this constant evolution of learning. And we talk about, these things that we talk about on this show in this episode are not the end-all be-all. It's not a one path for everybody. Being unique and having subjective opinions is what makes us all wonderfully, for lack of a better way of saying it, unique. And thus interesting and likable, because we aren't this cookie cutter version of things we consume from TV and social media, blah, 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 blah. It's really a fun episode of life. We talk about her book, her career, kind of things she's done to navigate her various struggles and passions in life. It's one of the most endearing episodes we've done. Anjali Bhimani, coming up next on the Points of Experience podcast. Stay tuned, y'all. So this is actually kind of super funny. I have no idea if you're going to remember this, but you were one of the first kindest people in my intro into moving from New York to LA. And I don't know if you remember, Scott Lowell put me in contact with you.
Oh,
and we spoke on the phone. Yes. So you are somebody who, in my, career being out here in LA, a lot of the words that you have said to me on the phone calls that we had are imprinted in my brain. And this is just a thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it truly shaped kind of, not so much like, because a lot of, we have a lot of these things in ourselves, but you just gave me such confidence to even just believe in myself and not worry about external things that I was worrying about in my journey. So this is a formal post 3 years now. Thank you for being so kind to me.
Well, thank you for completely. I'm flabbergasted at the beginning of this interview. Scott Lowell is one of the kindest human beings, as you know, on the planet.
Yes.
And I'm speechless. You started the interview as speechless. I'm so glad to know that anything I said had a positive effect on you moving here, because I know for a lot of people, even though I came here with a very different attitude, I know for a lot of people it's very scary to move here, and particularly if you're trying to come into the entertainment industry and you kind of. A lot of times when we step into things, and I certainly felt this way so much more when I was younger, when we step into new places, we think somehow there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And only in recent years have I adopted, my husband has a saying in our household, and it's always been right in our household, but now I'm realizing that it's right pretty much in life if you think a certain way, which is there are no wrong answers.
Yeah.
There are no wrong answers. There's only what you do with the answers that you give, or what you do with the things that you do. If you made a decision, it's the right decision because it's the one you made it, and now you got to work with it.
Yeah.
And there are no rules. There are 3 rules: be on time, be prepared, don't be a dick. Everything else is subjective. Everything else is subjective.
That's brilliant. And I think so many people overlook those things. We get so caught up, and as I know I did personally, you get caught up in a reality sometimes you create for yourself that isn't even a reality. It's like this thing that you fear and you want to create for yourself. And sometimes we just have to go back to the basics like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to go back. And this is not something that I'm, it's still something I have to go back to on a regular basis, remembering, when you're second guessing yourself, or, oh, maybe I should have said it this way, or maybe I should have sent this letter, or all of these different things that, and I feel like the world around us can contribute to this, because there's so many people professing to know the right way or the wrong way to do things. And, might be the right way for them, might be the right way for a lot of people, might be the right way for one casting director, might be the wrong way for another casting director. So the confidence that I find that is so important is the confidence in yourself to make your own right decisions. That's the part. It's not about confidence. Let me go into any room and impress people. It's I trust myself to survive this, not even to excel or to succeed. I trust myself to survive, because that is a success. And I think when we tap into like our deepest fears, what's really underneath it is, I'm not safe.
Yeah.
I am not safe. I am not safe. I am not safe. So when you lower the bar and live with success through lowered expectations and say, all I have to do is survive this moment, then you can kind of calm yourself down and really just trust, I made it up till now. So I must be doing something right.
Right. You have such a great way with words, and I'm curious where that comes from you in your life, because I just started reading your book, and congratulations on putting that out. I Am Fun Size, and as somebody who really enjoys hearing people's in the industry, hearing people how they've navigated not only the industry but their life, and having the way you kind of put it like this, the book becomes kind of like a little bit of a buddy, a companion, something that you can reference at times when maybe you're unsure how to navigate something, or you just need reinforcement of a certain perspective. And I just really love the language you use. It feels so comforting and friendly and peer-to-peer, rather than like, I am the all-knowing guru and this is how you have to go about things.
But again, that's just it, isn't it? It's one of my giant pet peeves. Like, why is it called the self-help industry if someone else is telling me what to do? I am not helping myself. You are telling me what to do. I hate that.
Yeah.
Now they call it prescriptive nonfiction. I'm like, I can't prescribe anything. I'm not a doctor. I just play them on TV. Why are you thinking I don't have all the answers, and I certainly don't have all the answers for you or you or you or you. I just have the things that I am working on myself, and the things that I figured out and the things that I didn't figure out. But ultimately, when you're with a good friend, they're there to remind you, you got this. I may not know, that friend may not have any idea how to get you out of a situation, but they're there to remind you, you got this, you got this. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be standing next to you. I'm going to be ready to crack a joke if you're freaking out. I'm going to be ready to hold your hand if you're scared. I'm going to be ready to cheer you on if you do really well. That's kind of my whole, I hate to put it this in such lofty terms, but I feel like that's become my whole mission in life. Is not, I can't give advice. I can give you opinions. But what I can also give you is the knowledge, the firm knowledge that you are never alone. And I've said this before. Some people say that they made their worst decisions when they were drunk. I made my worst decisions in my life when I thought I was alone. When I thought no one understood me. When I thought I had to go it alone and I couldn't ask people for help. When I thought no one would possibly accept me the way I am, or I was ashamed of myself or whatever. All of those things come from that feeling that you are in this by yourself. And none of us are. Especially now with the internet. For goodness sake, there's always someone you can reach out to. And if you need to, anonymously, there's always someone you can reach out to in a chat room, in DMs, whatever. There's always someone there. And that, to me, is the most empowering thing to recognize. That you are unique and your path is your path, and no one else knows the answers, which can be scary. Because then you're like, I have to figure it out. But it can also be really fun once you realize no, there are no wrong answers for me as long as I make it through this.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that you had that experience reading the book, because that was very much my intention. When I was writing it, I wanted several things, but one of the things that I wanted it to feel like was either you're talking to a good friend, or when I was writing it, I was thinking a lot of my niece and nephew. And they are two of the most brilliant people who came from two of the most brilliant people. My brother and my sister-in-law are ridiculously smart and lovely and wonderful. And their kids are so brilliant and so talented and so cool. But I also know they're the age they are and they're finding their way.
Yeah.
So I don't know their answers. They probably know way better than I do. But they're not alone. And that's all I want them to know. Because when I was that age, I thought no one got me. You know, and no one gets your struggle, and no one knows what it's like to be you, and how hard it is, or how scary it is, or whatever those things are that we tell ourselves that keep us from living our biggest, fullest lives. And as the book says, like, for me, fun size is not about candy bars and short people. It's about, I'm a short person, so I feel like I can say that, and I love candy.
So am I.
Well,
so
there you go. So you get it. Like, it's not about your stature. It's not about anything that has to do with your physical appearance. It's about, I'm built for fun. I'm built for a big life. I'm built to live as much as I want to live, however I want to live. So finding a way for life to not keep you contracted inside, which is so easy to let happen. Yeah. That to me is really, that's fun. One of my favorite things to ask people when I first meet them is essentially like, what do you want and how do we get it? Tell me what you're into. What's your jam right now? I don't care what you're doing for a living if it's not the same. That's fine. Yeah. I don't care what your career is. I care what excites you. And if the two things are in alignment, awesome. And if they're not, that's fine too. But I love finding out what makes people excited.
Yeah. What makes you excited right now?
That. So many things. I mean, there's so many things that I'm excited about right now. I'm excited about the explosion of creativity that has come out of difficult circumstances in the last few years. Mm-hmm. Obviously the pandemic was a terrifying, existential crisis of a time. That whole year, 2020, was 2020. And at the same time, there are so many people that have found solace or answers or purpose through some form of expression. Yeah. Whether that was live streaming, whether that was writing a book, whether that was writing a play, whether that was being more creative in how you cook, whether that was being more creative in how you write your greeting cards, whatever it is, I feel like it's been a really fruitful time amidst a lot of pain. Yeah. And when this is in the book too, so forgive me if it's redundant for you.
No, please. I hope people pick up the book because it's really fantastic. So please share as much as you feel.
Thank you. I don't necessarily believe in some puppet master in the sky who decides what we do, and I certainly don't believe in someone else deciding why everything has a meaning. Yeah. But I know I will give it meaning. And somewhere along the line, I will look back and there will be a story that makes sense to me as to why I'm where I am. But in that moment, when you are in that pain, when you are in that grief, when you are in that dark place, it's very hard to know what could possibly be good about this. And sometimes it's not good that you're looking for, it's why. Yeah. Why am I feeling this? Why do I have to feel this? So what I have found is for me at least, a tether to hang on to, a way to give that pain a purpose is to remember somewhere along the line I will give this meaning, but right now it's going to teach me compassion for someone else who is going through something similar. That's the thing. And I need to move through it so I can help that person when they need me. And so I feel like a lot of people did that in the last few years.
Absolutely.
And there has been an explosion of amazing television, of amazing games, of amazing, I mean, the projects that I'm getting to be a part of right now are, one person said to me that my career is a nerd's fever dream. And I was like, yes, that tracks because I'm a big nerd. Yeah. Every day I'm like, I can't believe I got to do or get to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And I mean, right now, one of the projects that I have coming out is a game called Stray Gods.
I saw this. It looks phenomenal.
It is a role-playing game, but it's a musical.
Yes.
What? Like, who? Where? And the creators of this game, David Gator and Austin Wintry, they like their minds and the whole team and everybody, like this. It's an immensely exciting time.
Yeah,
for creativity.
For someone like, I mean, someone in the industry like me or many of the people that listen to this, and just, I see someone like you and your career, and it's truly exceptional because you have touched every corner, every quadrant of this industry, like you said, from a nerdy perspective, video games, animation, everything. Like, you've really been able to venture into things, and you've also just done it so precisely, and you're having so much fun doing it. It really is inspiring to someone like me who's in this industry to see you excel in all these different formats. I mean, you've popped up in so many things that I've watched on television, right? Like, not even knowing that you were in them. Obviously, sometimes I see on social media, like, you're doing this. I just saw you did Lone Star, but like my Allie and I, my partner, we've been watching Dead to Me. And we just recently got to the 3rd season, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Anjali, And that happens all the time.
When your friends, I love it when my friends pop up on TV. We always pause it and then rewind it and then take a video and send it to them. And like, they don't need to see a video of themselves on TV. They know they did it. But exactly. I get so excited that I have to be like, look, it's you.
Yes.
It's a job. I do that for a living, but I get excited.
I think it goes to show the type of person that you are, and seeing that you wrote this book, you've had this YouTube series, you've gone on to be a part of so many different things. It makes me wonder two things. It's a two-part question here because, you've been a part of so much stuff, and there's the time management of things, and also just like you're traveling so much, and you have your family, and you have your friends, and you're traveling for work, and you're doing anime, all these things. You have your own series. You really are touching so much. You wrote a book. Like, to me, it just seems like overwhelming, and then on top of it, to perform so precisely in each different genre and category that you're doing, because I was saying acting, while it all has the same fundamental principles, a lot of things require a different set of skills, or at least leaning into something differently, like knowing your place when you're the person who's maybe giving some exposition or story and making sure that's clearly communicated, versus being a very broad character or doing something with critical role and it's a little bit more expansive and you have more freedom. How have you been able to kind of navigate this life that you've had now in the past few years, both from a time management perspective and also as an artist and a performer, and making sure you're kind of up to where you want to be?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in reverse, and this is actually something that I want to say. Like, I genuinely just realized this, so I'm still learning how to do it, because life is a constant renegotiation, right? It's like if a plane is flying, it's not, no matter what the course is, the whole time the pilot is the controls are recalibrating where it should go because of the wind and because of this and because of that, and there's a storm. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We all may have an idea of where it's going to go. Chances are 99% of a chance that it's not going to go exactly as you thought, right? Sure. So I am way still learning, but I am realizing that all the time. For so long, I thought it was all about time management, because there's a finite amount of time. It's not time management, I'm realizing, so much as energy management and focus management. Because I can have an entire day free and completely, all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock and I have no idea where the day went, because I was doing a bunch of things that seemed like they were productive, but ultimately I can't even remember what they were, And then there are times when in 30 minutes I can get more done, and I can be more focused, and I can be more quote unquote productive and have higher quality because of the level of focus that I have. So when it comes to performing, very much with performing, That to me is the thing that is the most important, is that focus. And allowing myself, and this is hard because I'm very type A, allowing myself to be like, you know what? I don't care if my phone is blowing up. That's on do not disturb. If there's some kind of an emergency, someone will find me. There's no one at the door with a bone sticking out of their leg, as far as I know, so I can focus on this task at hand. And staying in the joy of it and staying in the service of it, which, yes, they sound very magnanimous, but it's also very specific. Hi, buddy. My little dog is like, why are you in here and not feeding me? Papa will feed you. Okay. Staying in those two things, and the joy of it and the service of it, really just hones my focus so much more, because then it's not about me. Yeah. If I know it's more important than me or what I need or what I want or what I wish, and I admit it freely, I will not keep promises to myself, but I will keep a promise to someone else. You know what I mean? And I don't think I do my best to keep my promises to myself, but you can kind of like waver if you're like, okay, well, I didn't do my best work, but no one else saw it, and who the hell cares? But when you are there to support another actor, when you are opposite Linda Cardellini on Dead to Me, and she is having to deal with this incredibly emotional scene, your job is to be there for her. Your job is to, like, that's the job. The job is be present for that person and with that person, so that later people can have that experience. Other people can have that experience. It has so little to do about me. It has so much to do about what my job is, what my purpose is in that moment. So within the jobs, that to me is a very specific focus bringer. Outside of it, jumping from language to language is remembering that they are all different languages, but with the same root. Yeah. Like French and Spanish. If you learn Spanish, I learned Spanish first, and then French came easy. It's a completely different language. You can't automatically speak one if you speak the other. But there are a lot of similarities because they have the Latin roots, right? All acting is storytelling. All acting is, all of it. Whether I'm playing D&D with Critical Role or D20, or I'm on stage singing a musical, ultimately the goal is in service of the story. And how does this person and this character serve the story, right? And so a lot of it comes from experience. A lot of it comes from like knowing how to change gears faster. I don't know how to drive stick, but magically a bunch of people do. And they've done it for years and years, so they're really good at it, right? Yeah. It's kind of, that's a part of it. Jumping from thing to thing for years. While I so appreciate you saying that I excel at it, there is always inside me, or coming out my mouth when I'm talking to someone else, there is always a part of me that is constantly reassessing and constantly evaluating and looking at myself no longer as myself, but as the product, as the machine. And trying to see, okay, where could that have been better? How could that have been better? Great, that was awesome. Okay, cool. And it's not about self-worth. It's not about whether I'm good or not. It's not about whether I'm a good person or not. It's literally just looking at myself that way. So that excellence comes, that you see, that you said. I'm saying your words, not mine. Your words, not mine, is what I mean. That,
of course.
That comes from, I'm here to serve someone else. Whether that someone else is my scene partner or the audience. And I'm constantly recalibrating what works, what doesn't work, what worked, what didn't work, and always trying to do better. I know that one of my biggest challenges, and God bless my husband because he's constantly reminding me of this, is I tend to move so fast on to the next, like, let me reassess. Oh, that didn't work. I tend to move so fast into that evaluating place that I forget to take the win, take the W. And neurologically, there is neuroscience that proves how important it is to allow yourself the satisfaction of accomplishment. Because if you don't do that, this is in the book. This is me. I am not a doctor, and I am not a scientist. So this is me saying this in very layperson terms. But if you don't allow yourself to take the win and get that replenishment of your dopamine, get that replenishment of your neurotransmitters that make you feel motivated, that make you feel happy. If you're just constantly drive, you deplete yourself of those neurotransmitters so much that ultimately you crash, and then you're not useful for anyone. So the constant drive that we see in our world today for productivity, for what we call success, drive, work. If you're not having fun doing it, if you're not bringing joy to it, if you're not looking at it and having a moment of like, that is my life, I'm really grateful for that, that's awesome. If you're not taking those moments, you are actively working against the thing that you are trying to do by drive.
Wow. It sounds like for you, relatively, it's a healthy analysis of what you did, and
now it is. It wasn't for so many years, which is why I will say this to as many people as I possibly can, to remember there is a difference between judgment and evaluation. Yeah. So many people will ask, well, you're an actor, how do you handle all the rejection? And for the longest time, my answer was just like, well, it's part of the job, I just do it. But then I thought about it and I was like, no, how do you really handle it? And the way I have learned to describe it in recent years is, and this may sound very frou la la, but it's very true for me, is that the rejection part doesn't come from the outside world. The disappointment does. I didn't get that job and I wanted it so bad. Oh my God, I totally thought I nailed that audition. I know I nailed that audition, but I didn't get it. I can't believe we got it. The rejection comes from the rest of that sentence when we allow it to go to, and therefore I suck. And therefore I'll never be successful. I'm never going to get a chance. That's where the rejection comes in. And I do it all the time, and then I have to remind myself, oh, no, you got to listen to the thing that you tell other people. Remember that there is no and therefore. It is just that. Yeah. It is letting yourself have the disappointment. Letting yourself feel the disappointment, but not allowing it to be a referendum on who you are. And it took me so many years to be able to make sense of that. For myself, that works. Also remembering, and I have to thank Michael Castro for this. He's a tremendous character actor, and he also teaches these audition classes, right? It is a mathematical thing. It's simple math. If 100 people audition for something and only one gets it, does that mean 99 people suck? No, it means one person got it. Only one person is going to get this job, one way or the other. That's going to one person. So you got to find some way to be, if not happy about it, to somehow be okay with being one of the other 99 and knowing that does not mean you suck. Knowing that does not mean you screwed up. Knowing that does not mean you failed. There's something wrong with you. No. That's the therefore part. That's the rejection part.
It's funny, you said something and it reminded me, there's a book of mine that I really enjoy. It's called The Art of Happiness. It's about a conversation that somebody has with the Dalai Lama. And one part that really stuck out to me in that book was when they start talking about like anger and frustration and rage and those things. And it's like, you think about the Dalai Lama, you think like, there's no way the Dalai Lama ever gets rageful or angry. And it's like, no, I experience those emotions. It's all about how I like allow that to filter through my body, and then what I do with that emotion to the people that I surround myself with. And it's like these are human emotions that we feel. So to, hear you talk about like, I didn't get that job and, I really wanted it, but then getting to the part where you're like, well, I suck. That's where where we get into danger mode.
And I also think, and I'm really just realizing this right now, I also think that is our attempt, because part of what we do as human beings is create meaning for things. That's part of what our brain does. That's part of what we do when we're taking in the information from our senses and all of that. So that, therefore, XYZ, I feel like that's our desperate attempt to gain some control, to make sense of something that doesn't necessarily need to make sense. And we may never know the answer, and to somehow be okay with that. That's really hard. That's like not getting closure on a breakup. But sometimes you have to, because sometimes you're not going to get that, right? And you have to be like, I somehow have to be okay with this. I can't be playing it for 20 years in my head. I somehow have to move on without an explanation until if I'm lucky, or if it so happens, I can look back and go, that's why.
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating career to be in because, I mean, we're perpetually just auditioning and interview. Like, if somebody was interviewing to work at like a sales job, you know, you
get the job.
I theoretically, you do it a couple of times or, you know, X amount of times, and you get the job, and then you stay there. Maybe a few times in your life, you change a couple of jobs or careers, what have you. But for us, it's like that feeling of going through that interview process is constant, for most actors.
And, you know, it's funny. There was a producer of a short that I did, and we were like at some festival, and he said, I feel like acting is the only job where the reward is getting to do the job. He was absolutely like, that is accurate.
Yeah,
that is accurate. And I know it's one of the reasons that many people say, you know, when you do your auditions, you have to take that as an opportunity to practice your craft, and that's all. Yes, but it's hard also not to take in the fact that acting in an audition is very different than acting when you know you have the job. It is very different than being on set, especially if we're doing self-tapes now, where we are the cinematographer, the sound designer, you know, we're doing all of those things and we're acting. I lost my train of thought.
The acting in the audition versus the job is a different
that we are constantly having this chance to act, yes, but I don't believe that. I've heard a lot of people say, well, you have to be satisfied just with that and let go of whatever happens. Okay, well, that's the ideal. That is the ideal. For me, going back to what you were saying about the breadth of my career, part of the benefit of doing a bunch of different things is you don't have time between auditions to be feeling heartbroken or to be second guessing because you've moved on to something else. And you're about to have to speak a different storytelling language, so you got to get your head in that game. It's a decathlon instead.
It's also for most people, it's the getting of the job, and obviously as a performer, you can take those opportunities to once you get that audition to embody the role, and you're doing your part of the performance, and if they book you, so be it. But for some people, when you get to a certain part in your career, booking that job becomes linked to whether or not you pay your mortgage, or booking that job, it becomes linked to these external things that are hard to a degree to separate.
Yeah, that is one of my, if I were to give a piece of advice, and this is based more on my experience through the years, it is to remember that it does not matter. You do not have to make your entire living as an actor in order to be an actor. In order to be a successful actor. You do not have to. You know what people who invest their money are told to do? They are told to diversify. So we need to diversify our creativity. And this is part of a course that I have been putting together and teaching right now. One of the pillars of it is you need to diversify your creativity, even if part of that is not for money. Part of that is not for someone else's consumption. In fact, I argue that some of it should be just for you. Let yourself get that artistic fulfillment there. If you need to find another way to pay your bills, do it. Because I'll tell you what, I can't do my best acting when I'm worried about paying the bills. I can't do my best acting when I don't feel safe. I can't do my best acting when I don't feel in control of my emotions, and therefore I can't access them. Like anything that is messing with your own sense of security, whatever that is, stability, whatever it is that makes you feel like, okay, I'm okay in this moment. I don't know what's happening tomorrow, but in this moment I'm okay. Anything that messes with that, messes with your ability to be a good actor and to have fun doing it. And I know everything that I'm saying sounds like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. Like I cannot reiterate more that everything changes. Everything, what I say today might not be what works tomorrow, but this is what I know for sure for now. And I know that when that weight is taken off of my shoulders, I do so much better, and I just feel better. And if you're so worried about, I have to get this job or I won't be able to pay my bills, creativity, squeezing it that hard is just the death of creativity.
Yeah. I'm so glad you kind of said all this and spoke upon it, because I think a lot of people get obsessed with this, like, in order to be an artist, I have to commit myself fully, and if my day job is taking away from my creativity. But I also feel like what you're saying, it also inspires life experience, which would more than likely fuel your creativity from having a different vantage point.
There is nothing you can do or nothing you can learn on this planet that will not serve you as an actor. In fact, I highly recommend not putting all your learning eggs into, oh, well, I have to do this because it'll be good for my career. I have to do that because it'll be good for my career. A, that'll be the death of joy. And B, you will be a very boring, proficient performer.
Yeah.
You will be very proficient, but you will not be exciting. You will not be you. You will not be unique. None of us have the same path on this planet, which means none of us have the same set of experiences. It's why I started the web series, because the one gift I have to give other people is my set of experiences and what I've learned from them. That's the only thing that no one else has. Because I don't have yours, you don't have mine, right? So if you don't bring that fullness of you to the table, we miss out. We absolutely miss out. And again, I know it's so easy. It sounds like it's so easy to say. And I know if 20-year-old me, 30-year-old me, me 10 years ago was listening to this, I'd be like, you are full of shit. But it's so... I know it in my gut now. And I also know it in my gut because, and this is going to sound like a hard left, but for the longest time in the years that I have been in this industry, in the beginning, there were very few people of my ethnic background that I saw in the industry. And therefore, I was like, okay, cool, well, there's an Indian role. I'm perfect for it because that's what I am. And I would think like that. And so would the agents, and so would all of the people, the casting people. Like, well, that's the Indian one. That's the thing. But what I had to learn or had to recognize, because it was showing up in my career left and right, is that that's not what makes you unique. There are 1.5 billion South Asians in the world or something like that. There is no way that they're all the same. There's just no way. It's impossible. So why on earth would you think that that is the only thing that makes you unique, right?
Yeah.
And so to really process that you walking into a room as you is enough to be different than everybody else, that's wildly empowering. And it's scary because it might mean, okay, maybe this package is not what they want. Cool, I get it. But me trying to be something else, other than like the character, but me trying to be someone else and trying to embody someone else, it doesn't serve the purpose either. It doesn't serve the purpose we are trying to serve either.
Yeah, because I mean, the majority of people who are pursuing this career, a lot of their time in life is revolved around entertainment and acting. So you have 100 people auditioning. There's going to be a good amount of them that are going to have similar takes on something if they're not enriching their life and creating a unique life experience, so that when they get to the audition room, someone goes, watching it, they say, well, that was interesting and unique and different. Not like they were bouncing off the walls, but there was something about that person that they brought from themselves.
Yeah. You just remind. So, my second TV job, which is crazy. My second TV job was playing a doctor on The Sopranos, and the audition. I went to the callback. Apparently, I wasn't even on the list, so they put me at the end. And so I was sitting there, and went in, did my audition. But apparently, what had been surrounding me my entire life, which is a family full of doctors, paid off. Because they asked me after I finished, wow, are you a real doctor? And I was like, no, but I understand what this means, and I know that this is the intubation tube, and this is how this should have been here, and this should have been there. And my sister-in-law helped me make sure that I was doing all the things, because she's a doctor. Like, it was, and that's another example of nothing. The fact that my mother at some point in the last few years said to me, oh, I'm so sorry, I wish that we were somehow in the entertainment industry so we could have helped you with your career. I'm like, Mom, do you realize how many doctors I have played? Do you have any idea? Between the support you gave me and the brilliance of your own mind, do you have any idea how much you are a part of because you're my life? It's crazy how much things that aren't acting improve my acting.
I have to say, and it goes back to the Dead to Me stuff, and it'll lead to another question, but this is not to get sappy, it's to give context to the situation, and I know you talk about this kind of experience in your book with your father, but I experienced my father go through the decline of his life, going through like chemotherapy and dealing with various doctors before he passed away. And when I saw your performance on Dead to Me, I recently also had some also personal stuff with a different scenario, but very similar, dealing with a dark doctor with my partner. And when I was watching you, the demeanor that you had where you're dealing with this very serious thing, you know, that's happening to a character where you're talking about stage 4 cancer, and then you also have this calming, inviting, friendly, like everything's going to be okay at the same time. That was so real for me from like, you know what I mean? Like just having experienced that thing. And it's like, and in my head, my question was going to be like, you know, I've seen you play like lawyers or people in business, like in Silicon Valley, which is, you know, was a favorite show of mine. You know, I've seen you play these various different professionals that require a very specific set of skills that when you're auditioning and you get to play like guest stars or recurs on these shows and you're kind of put into those professions. I feel like there's a fine line that separates from someone who knows how to kind of say the lines in a certain way versus someone who knows the way that a professional who really does this can embody. And that's what I kind of saw when you were doing that in Dead to Me. So it's a compliment, but I guess the question is, when you're doing things that maybe aren't a doctor, do you have a process that you do to get to that level of authenticity? Is there some sort of routine that you go through for things like that?
It's not the same every time, but there's one thing that is so basic that I think a lot of actors forget, which is make sure you understand everything that's in this script. Make sure you know exactly what you are saying. Make sure you know how to pronounce what you're saying. Make sure you know how to pronounce it so easily that it sounds like you talk about it every day. And make sure you understand what is actually happening. For some reason, I think a lot of us think that we're not allowed to ask questions when we get an audition. Like, if there's no script, so I'm going to ask the questions, and if they say, we can't tell you, okay, cool, we can't tell you. But 9 times out of 10, if you ask a question, or you get your agents to ask casting the question for you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get some kind of answer, right?
Yeah.
So you do your homework, you make sure you understand everything. If it is a career that I have no idea about, I very much like go in and do my job and do my studying to understand, like, I'll go online and watch video interviews of people who are in that profession. We have so many resources to do this in our day-to-day. So that is one thing. And then reminding myself that this person, it's different for different characters, because some characters are supposed to be bad at their job. Most of the characters that historically, most of the characters that I've gotten to play have been good to great at their job. Like that's kind of the thing. And so reminding yourself that, like, this person has the confidence of knowing they don't have to prove themselves, or this person has the confidence of knowing they do this all day. And then, ultimately, all that goes away, because all that is underneath. That's just who the person is. But this is an extraordinary day, and this scene, something is happening, and I want something from that character, and that character wants something from me, and there's all this stuff going on. That's the stuff. It's just like acting anything else. Wow. It's just like any other kind of acting. Right. And also because so many times in our lives, we are going to be asked, if we're lucky, but I mean, I would think that this would happen for everybody. So many times in our lives, we are going to be asked to perform as something that not only do we not have experience as, but ideally most people don't have experience as. If you're playing a villain and you're a serial killer or whatever, okay, well, you know what? I have no interest in having that experience in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But I have to somehow get into the head of that character, or somehow create something that makes sense. So one of my processes that is consistent across the board is that when I'm learning this, when I'm making sense of the scene, I've made sense of the scene in my head, like the actual plot of the scene and why I'm saying what I'm saying and all that stuff. But then I map out the thought process that leads me from my line to their line to their, like leads from line to line. So that I'm not waiting for them to say something, thinking, and then coming back with my line, right? Like we all kind of think as we're going. Sometimes we take a moment to think, but we come in because we've had some kind of reaction to what someone is saying. So the thought process, which is not necessarily the facts, it's just the thought process, is really important to me. Because A, it helps me memorize my lines. And B, it helps me feel the emotions organically, because our feelings essentially, for the most part, come from some kind of thought or some kind of reaction we are having to something outside, or some kind of impetus, or some kind of reaction to something we're saying to ourselves. It comes from thought. And whether that thought is abrupt, there's a lion, I'm afraid, like we don't have time to say that, it's just there, or whether that thought is genuinely, I can't believe he just said that to me, he must want to leave me. Or like that, like when you have the thought process of what's going on in the scene, it's much easier to learn, it's much easier to ride that wave. But yeah, I wish, no, that's not true. I don't wish. I was going to say I wish I did have some process to share specifically, but I don't, because everybody's has to be different. All of us go to school and all of us go to classes just to get a set of tools.
Yep.
And then we decide which tools to use, which ones work best for us to build the thing that we're building.
Yeah. I try to reinforce that as much as possible here, especially, as school becomes a very big topic for people. But something that you said that I think gets ignored a lot, that I don't think we've really talked about at length here, is specifically for like voice acting, is that script analysis or that psychology that happens between the lines. Because I think oftentimes, especially when you're performing auditions for voiceover, for a lot of people listening, they go line to line to line, and they're not either creating that scene partner for themselves, or they're not giving themselves an emotional or a logical way from getting from point A to point B.
They're not giving themselves the moment before what they're saying.
Yes. So that's a very important indicator. I think a lot of people doing voiceover, it's easy to ignore, and it's a great reminder for people who are interested in that.
And also, again, the more you do it, the more facile you become with it. So after a certain point, there's a certain amount of stuff that I do that just is second nature, that was not second nature before. But here's the thing that hopefully will remind people that this is a great thing. This is one of the best pieces of information I was ever given by anyone as an artist. My cousin Raj Bhimani, is an incredible concert pianist, and he also teaches piano to young and old and all sorts of people. And he said to me once, when I was talking about, like, I don't know, I felt like I screwed up an audition, and he said, well, remember, as you get better, your worst gets better too. It doesn't just go like this. Your worst doesn't stay the worst, and your best starts to go really high. No, it's moving along. Your worst continues to get better. So even in our worst moments, if we've been doing the work, if we've been putting in the time, it's still better than it was the day before.
Wow. It made me think of too, like when and I still do this sometimes, depending upon what it is, if I have a job or if I'm doing something on camera, but when I was starting out, I used to like print out every little side, and I used to religiously mark up my page. I used to circle every beat, and I used to give action and give alternative actions for every little thing. And then not that I got lazy, but as I started progressing in my career, I started doing those things instinctually.
Yes.
I would, and it wasn't like I had to print out every single page and do a piece of work of art on the script to be like, see my homework, you see? Like, it was, I was able to internalize just through repetition.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because to this day, there's a part of me that if I see someone standing next to me and they've written out things on their script, it somehow feels like I didn't do my work. And then I have to remind myself, no, you did your work. You've been doing this for 26 years or however long you've been doing this. Like, you did your work. It's just up here. It's just not on the page. It's okay.
When you get on a bicycle, maybe you have to start out saying, okay, I put my left foot over here, and then I put my right foot here, and I hold the handlebars. But when you've ridden a bike for 20 years, you don't have to do that. You just get on the bike and you go.
Yeah. Exactly. So
that's so funny.
It becomes like speaking that language better and better and better until you're fluent.
Yeah. I would love to quickly talk about, I'm sure you talked about it a billion times in your career, but where in your life, growing up with parents that were in the medical field, what was that spark of saying either performing or acting or entertaining is something that I am curious about? Like, when did you start recognizing that as something that was even pursuable as a career?
Well, there were several stages, there's several different things that happened. First of all, I did not know this until I was older, but my parents, even though they are doctors who met in medical school acting in a play. So they had an appreciation of the arts. My dad, if he wasn't a doctor, wanted to be an actor. My mom told me a couple years ago she felt the same way. So I'm like, okay, so it was, even though it wasn't necessarily the profession they wanted me to go in, the act of it was respected. The arts were very
Wow.
respected in my family. You know, my brother and I both took piano, so we both read music. Like everybody, there was definitely a respect for that. And so, you know, in school, most people, I mean, as far as I know, most schools don't have a TV or film section department when you're in like elementary school, but everybody's got the school play.
Yeah.
Everybody's got book reports where they have to stand up and do a thing. So I loved those. I just loved it, whether it was like the puppet show in second grade or writing a play during recess in first grade or you know, doing a book report as Mahatma Gandhi in the sixth grade and dressing up, and that's a thing. There's that was a thing. A bald cat. But so there are always opportunities to be creative and be performative in that way. And then I don't think there were definitely things that inspired me that made me love it more. I remember I've been talking about this a lot because recently I saw an incredible production of A Little Night Music at the Pasadena Playhouse, and it reminded me of when I was in junior high seeing a production of Kismet at Cal State Fullerton. And it was life-altering for me because it was this sweeping, epic, and all these feelings, and the songs were beautiful, and there were people on stage, and I have no idea what ethnicity they actually were, but the characters were Persian, which was sort of close to Indian, so I was like, okay, well, hey, I can do this. This amazing thing. I get to be a part of this, and look how it makes me feel as an audience member. I could be up there. So that was a big thing. And then somewhere in high school, I suddenly was like, oh, wait, people go to college for this? This is a thing. I didn't know that wasn't, I can do this? And so I did. And in our family, we don't do anything half-assed. So I was just like, cool. So I'm going to do all my schoolwork. I'm going to take dance classes and voice lessons, and I'm going to do the school play, and I'm going to do community theater too. And I'm going to do all of it on top of keeping my grades up because I want to do this thing. And my parents, their only thing was, cool, whatever you want to do, be good at it and know how to make a living, whether you make a living from that or not. Find a way. And so even though I didn't want to fall back, I didn't want a different degree at all. At first they were kind of like, oh, why don't you get like an architecture degree or something? And I was like, no. But I didn't want to have a fallback, but I did want to have, I wanted a day job. I wanted something that gave me that level of security so I could flourish in that area. So I got certified as a personal trainer. That was my choice of things to do. And which was great because it filled me up in completely different ways than acting did, and then I would go do the play, right? Yeah. So that too, it sounds strange, but I really think having other things that were not theater then just made me love the theater more. Not because I hated the things I was doing, but because it was so different. And because it was another gear, and it was fulfilling in a different way. And when I came back to my real life, I didn't feel like my real life was empty and I had to get back to the theater. My real life was full. I mean, back then it was full of drama, the whole thing, but it was full. But it was full. I had a breadth of experience that was happening outside of that. You know,
and forgive me for interrupting, but it's like you're also interacting with, and I hate to put it this way, but for lack of a better way of putting it, but like you're interacting with humanity, because when you're always in the theater and you're always about performing, that's its own separate reality that's also tied to the business and a little bit of fiction.
That's that way for any profession. I mean, if you're a scientist and you spend 24/7 in the lab and you are not interacting with people outside of the lab, your experience is very limited. And you might come up with the creative solutions to something that you're trying to solve because you are constantly staring at it. You are constantly on it. So I think that's that case for anyone. I mean, you are very true. It's just being in touch with people who are different than you, or having different experiences than you. So I used to think, and this is going back to what I said before, I used to think that I had to like read all the acting books and read all the business of acting books. And then I realized if I don't fill myself up with wisdom from other people doing other things, I'm only going to have one perspective. And that's not going to serve. That's not going to work. It's not going to work for me, especially since I am like part of my job is being people who are different from me. Yeah. You know, so if I only know how to be an actor and I have to go up there and, you know, I don't know, play a hitman or hitwoman, then I don't know why I picked Hit Woman. I don't know why I'm talking about killing someone. But if I have to go out there and play a lawyer, and I have no outside experience other than being an actor, I feel like I can't bring the fullness to it. Which is
That's
also
very true.
Full circle speaks to why I love having the breadth of different media that I work in. Yeah. Because one serves the other, serves the other, serves the other. It's amazing to me how related they are. It is amazing to me how playing tabletop role-playing games has been so... I mean, it's not amazing to me. It's just, it's a constant like, that's true. It's constant proof of it. I know it's not amazing. I'm not surprised. But how creating in that realm, which is essentially long-form improv, but very, very committed to a story more than just trying to get laughs or trying to get responses from people, how that has opened me up as an actor for other things.
I was going to ask that in terms of, because a lot of people, I think, it's a very interesting world where you have, you know, with Critical Role and D20, everything you've been a part of, you have this world where traditionally, especially years ago, it was like the nerds who weren't necessarily the performers who were playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and were doing tabletop gaming in that way. But now we have these storytellers like, you know, you and Matt Mercer and everybody over there who are, you know, very good at creating character, now able to display this in like on YouTube and create this content for people to truly enjoy.
But we all are able to do that. I know people who have no interest in being actors who are incredible storytellers. You know what I mean? And so we all, just because we're doing it on a camera doesn't mean that someone at home in their home game is not having the exact same experience or that level of experience. You know?
And that's what I was going to say, is I think it reinforces people only more to feel confident in having that ability within themselves. It's kind of... So. I think so. I think it's creating this world where people are, because we don't sit around the campfire anymore and tell stories like we used to, you know, hundreds of years ago. That's not the experience of life. So now we're seeing it on YouTube and on the TV and in the movies and things, but specifically with tabletop gaming, I think people are getting a lust for that urge that we all have, because it's not like back then every single person was a Broadway actor. These were people that were just part of the community. And I think what you guys are doing are giving people the freedom and the tools to do it themselves. And that was the comment.
One of the reasons I stopped playing D&D because I started when I was 8, and one of the reasons I stopped was because it wasn't considered cool, so I had to have a whole separate life in order to be able to fit that into my life, and ultimately I couldn't fit it in. And now obviously now I'm blessed enough that it's part of my work, which is crazy and awesome. But also now, like, it is such an open and welcoming and wonderful way of people expressing themselves. You know, people know it like people go see live music. You know, people know it in that way now. And also, not for nothing, but I think being a nerd has become much cooler too, because the nerds and the geeks finally, or hopefully, have all finally realized that being a nerd or being a geek really just means being exceptionally enthusiastic and knowledgeable about something that not everybody is into.
Right?
So how could that be a bad thing? Like, that's a good thing, right? Like, that's arguably like the best thing, because you are bringing your expertise to, pardon the pun, the table. And so I'm very happy. I'm also very happy there's been a shift in that world from, I feel like there's some people who play role-playing games like they play them like they think they're going to win the role-playing game. I'm going to do it the best. My character's going to be the strongest. I'm going to win. Rah! And ultimately for me that doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel collaborative or fun. Like, if all our characters die but it's a beautiful story, so be it. That's the part to me that's exciting, is lifting each other up and essentially like tossing the narrative ball to each other. And those moments where you're watching your friends virtuosically put together this story, and then you get to jump in, and like that's the fun of it to me. That's where it's fun. That's when you get a natural one, and you're like, well, I gotta make failure awesome in this moment. I got to tell a story where that failure does something that moves this story along. That's fun.
I was playing a campaign and my character was just rolling nat ones after nat ones, and just I wound up trying to do something that was very bold, like taking on this mystical creature, this like mistborn thing or whatever, and it wound up consuming me and killing my character. And the DM kept trying to give me options to like come back and like we'll bring this will bring I'm like no. I made the choice. That is the story that was for my character. We don't need to circumvent it to bring him back. Maybe I'll participate in another way, but I'm like, I felt so beautiful about the choices that character made and failed with.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is like sometimes we try to, make it that I'm going to win, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to be the strongest, and like I'm going to know all the rules, and actually, I can do this, so I'm going to, it's like there's a freedom to the messiness and just trying, and I enjoy it much more when that happens.
When we allow it. And don't get me wrong, there is, especially if you're like invested in the character's life, it's hard to let go of. There are a few games that I played recently for shows that like the end did not go the way I wanted it to go. And so I left being like, I have this like, I'm carrying this ick, but at the same time knowing that's okay. That's actually a good sign. That's a sign you were invested. Now you do the thing that you do as an actor and figure out how to peel that away and go back to your awesome regular life. That's the job.
Yes.
You do it now playing a game, not just in front of a camera. When the camera turns off, you got to peel all that off, even if you've been crying for 2 hours or whatever's been going on, right?
Yep.
When the game is over, you gotta go, good game.
Yep. And you're in service to the story again, like you were saying from the beginning. You're in service, and your experience or your character might enhance or alter the story for other people enjoying it or the people you're playing with. So it's, you're not always going to be the winner.
No, but there is no winner. That's the best part. Like the winner is if we all tell a good story, we're all winners.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's some of my favorite things that have happened. I did a show called We're Alive Frontier and a show called Undeadwood. And at the ends of both of those shows, you could not have written them. You could not in a million years have written that it would happen the way it did. And just the way the dice rolls happened and the choices that everyone made, it was incredible. Like, I would never have thought up the ending that happened. I would never have thought up some of the things. But because we were all focused on one purpose, which is tell the story of these characters, tell the story of what's going on, and it was just, it's so satisfying. So satisfying. And I love that so much.
Can you talk a little bit about, because I think today, if I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong, but Dimension 20 comes out today?
Right now, actually.
Wow.
Right now. It is, we are now 1 hour and 33 minutes into the first episode. If you started right when it came out, because it came out 1 hour and 33 minutes ago. So yeah, it's I'm excited.
Can you share a little bit about that or the experience of that? Because I don't know if this is correct, but were you guys using the new system, because Illuminated Worlds, was that used in Dimension 20 or no? Was it the standard?
This was standard D&D.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, I wasn't looking at any new rules.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about what your character is or what's going to happen or some of that stuff?
Yeah, I certainly can. First of all, I was ridiculously excited to get to do this, and I was extra super excited and touched that it was Matt who called me up and he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yes." And he said, "You don't know what it is." And yes, I know I'm doing it. Yes, I can do a thing. I don't know what it is, but yes. And then when I found out what it was, I was super excited, and who the cast was, which is an incredible cast of storytellers, some of which I'd worked with before and some of which I hadn't. Mm-hmm. And so D20, The Ravening War, is a prequel to A Crown of Candy, one of D20's most beloved series. And really an incredible series. Talk about great storytelling. Like, when you say Game of Thrones meets Candyland, it sounds like it's just going to be all yuck, funny, but it gets dark.
Yeah.
A Crown of Candy gets dark. And so The Ravening War is a prequel to that, leading up to it. And my character is Lady Amango Épicée du Pêche. The former, or possible now, we cannot quite tell at the beginning of the show, Queen of Vegetania, because at the beginning of the series, we are mourning the death of her husband, the king. And she has no idea where she stands in terms of her title, in terms of her position, in terms of her life. And it was interesting because as we were putting this character together and as we were talking about it, we were trying to figure out, like, what does happen? What does happen? If there's an heir, it's clear, it's one thing. If there's not an heir, it's another thing. If the person came from here, it's like, there's like, what does happen in the Regency? Is it different than this? So there's so much difference in there that confusion felt very real. And what I love so much about when I created the character, historically, I've had a history of creating characters who were very capable. Mm-hmm. You know, whether or not they succeeded, they were very capable of handling things. And I wanted to explore what is it to be someone who was very capable where they were, and then they were thrust into a situation that they knew, like, I don't know that any of my skills are useful anymore. And so, yeah, we watched that journey as she's connecting with all of the other characters, and my character and Abria's character and Brennan's character all know each other going in, so there's a pre-existing relationship there. But meeting the others and figuring out what's happening, and as things happen, like, it's just, it was quite a journey. Because I'm also kind of like, in life, I have a need to feel capable and useful, and when I don't, I feel very not good. And that definitely like, I felt that pull during this campaign.
Oh, it sounds so exciting, and that's such a fun going through that. And in terms of creating your character, that's such a fun way of going about it. Putting somebody who is not necessarily has these skills that were really good for one thing, and to be kind of thrusted into unknown waters is. And
what happens? Because it's not someone who's bad at things; it's someone who's good at the wrong things. And we don't know if they're the wrong things. Are they adaptable? It could be. We're about to find out. You know,
we will see.
That to me was very exciting and new and a fun thing to explore. And hopefully it will be fun for everyone else too.
I'm excited to check it out. It's on the Drop Network. Yeah, okay. So and then you're also, I don't know when this is coming out. Is it Candela Obscura? Is that's also coming too?
That is coming on May 25th to Critical Role.
Yeah.
It is very exciting. It is a brand new world. It is a brand new game system. It is a whole, like, from scratch, built from the ground up experience. And we are showing it off, shall we say, in the first season, starting on May 25th at 7 p.m.
Wow. You have so many cool things that, like, that's what I was saying in the beginning, like, you keep touching these different quadrants, and you're always kind of, what I perceive to be as someone's like, I'm game to play. Like, I'm game to play.
Yes, like, pun intended. Like, I am very much that person. You read the beginning of the book, the whole foreword. Marisha wrote the foreword to my book. Mm-hmm. And there is something that I say, or have said very often, and now I feel a little more self-conscious because she wrote the whole foreword of the book about me saying this, but I take my fun very seriously. Because if I am going to be working a lot of the time, my work has got to be fun. It's important that I build that into everything. It's important that there is joy in everything, even in the struggle, even when I'm frustrated. There's got to be underneath it. There's got to be, but I love this. I'm frustrated because I can't get it yet, but I know we're going to get it. So that, for me, is the sauce, because so many of these different avenues that have been opened to me are genuinely things where I was like, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could have wait, you could be a theater actor as a living? Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to do that. Let's do that. Wait, I'm allowed to do, I can do TV too? Cool. Yes, I would like to do that. Wait a minute, people, there are actually voices. You're right. There are voices behind these characters that we are watching in this video game, in this animated series. I would like to do that, please. Like that, it's all been like I did not know that was a thing. Yes. My answer is yes. I want to try it. Much like all of the cities I've lived in, I love stepping in and being like, what's this new thing?
Yeah.
And being a beginner. Like a beginner, again, with a set of skills that happily transfer, but it's still a beginner.
It's different.
It's that excitement of something being new. And and this goes back to all the way full circle to that incredible burst of creativity that is out there right now. Everybody innovating, everybody figuring out new ways to tell stories. And I just love trying it all. And I really love helping other people try it all. That's why it's so important to me to share so much of the stuff that I've been through. Because if I knew years ago, and I know people can say this all the time in their lives, but if I knew years ago how not hard so much of this could have been. Yes, there are required struggles, but 90% of the struggles I went through were because of this and because of what was going on inside me. And that if I had known that didn't have to be there, I can't even imagine what that would have felt like. Yeah. So now I know, cool, I learned all that for myself. How can I help someone else not have to go through the same thing? Or how can I help someone else deal with the same thing and find their own way and figuring it out, knowing, I promise you, there is a light at the end of this tunnel.
Well, I, as well as probably many of your fans and the people you surround yourself with, are very appreciative because it's you are a genuine person, and I've experienced that firsthand. I mean, I'm experiencing that here. I think everybody's experiencing that here in the way that you share kind of your, I don't know it all, but here's the way I went through things, and take from that what you will, and like, we will, this too shall pass. Like, those type of things are always helpful as a reminder to people, especially pursuing an artistic career that has the unknowns and all those things. And before I end here, first of all, thank you again so much for doing this. I wanted to just congratulate you and thank you too, or just comment on Miss Marvel was one of my favorite series on Disney and with Marvel. I thought your character brought such life to I mean, first of all, the whole series was so vibrant and unique, and it was very reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse, but in live action. It had that feel of this city life where there's this person who's kind of like, I don't know how I got these powers, and I'm navigating just young teenage life at the same time. And to see your character and the Illuminantes, right? To see that you in that role was just such a breath of fresh air and light. And I'm excited to see what happens. I won't get down into spoiler territory with everything else, so I'll leave it at that.
We're going to leave it at that. Thank you for saying that. It was such a joyful experience and continues to be. Because, again, you've heard me say how much I love fun. I mean, it sounds stupid to say it, but, sometimes we forget to have fun. Yeah. And that show, despite dealing with some very serious issues, it was a celebration. It wasn't just a show about, let me tell you about my culture. It was a show that normalized a culture that not a lot of people were familiar with, but underneath a story that is universal, which is, how do I step into my own power? It's not just a coming of age story, even though it is about a teenager finding her way. All of us have to figure that out through our lives. What happens when I step into my power? And it's scary and it's different, and I am no longer the same person I was 5 minutes ago. What is this going to be like? How am I going to wield it? Is my life going to fall apart? There's so much rich stuff in that show for everybody to take in this celebratory, exciting, fun package. Yeah. I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. I cannot wait. I'm so happy that the world gets to watch Iman Vellani, because she's so young. We get such a nice long time to watch her because she's so delightful and she's so cool. And I just I'm very, very, very grateful to have been a part of that.
Yeah, the show was just phenomenal. Everybody in the cast is phenomenal. It's such magnetic performances that just seem so real and relaxed in the way that it just felt from someone like me. I grew up in Brooklyn. It just felt so my years at that age in a way, just kind of growing up that.
Watching it, I was like, I know these people.
Yeah.
I don't know these people, but I know these people.
Yeah.
I get this. I see this in my life.
Yep. I also wanted to quickly touch upon, too, because Overwatch was a game in my life that, just from my life experience playing the game, it was one of the first games, this is my own nerding out here, I was playing Overwatch fairly competitively for a while, and Symmetra was one of my favorite characters. Truly, from a gameplay experience was just so fun, and obviously being in the acting world, I truly I remember before I even knew that Scott had known you, because we went to a festival together and I saw you in his TV series, because I also had a TV series that I was in. Adoptable, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
So I also had that. So I met him, and then he was like, I saw you, and I didn't even know that you were the voice of Symmetra yet. And I was still enjoying everything about that because I was playing it so competitively for a long time. And the stories, like the short stories that we got with every character, changed my life. Like, from as a gamer, as a nerd, and to see all of these various characters' perspectives. Yeah, did you have a comment on that? Yeah.
I mean, yes, there's so much to say there. I mean, we could do a whole hour on just that.
I know.
Apex as well, Apex Legends as well. Like, I love so much. I mean, there's so much I love about Overwatch. I love that they created a world, a future worth fighting for, where even though there were dark forces, there was hope. It was a bright future. The world needed us to step up. Us, we're all heroes. The world needs more heroes. And that there were heroes that weren't just defined by one part of who they were. They were all a unique combination of the unique things that went through them. Symmetra wasn't just the Indian one. Symmetra wasn't just this or just that. She was a combination of she was Indian, she was an architect, she was, and I love that term, the architect.
Yes.
She was on the spectrum, which is a whole other amazing thing, to watch that character grow and to watch that character navigate that, and to have the comic book, which explained the lore of how one of my favorite, and I just posted this for Free Comic Book Day, one of my favorite.
I saw that.
I pull this out, and it says, used to bother me, like, essentially her saying, it used to bother me when people used to ask where I was on the spectrum because I knew it was true. It doesn't anymore, because I can do things that no one else can do. And to have these powerful depictions of people who are completely unique and who are just combinations of all the experiences they had and all the things that make them unique, and have those be the heroes that we get to play, I firmly believe that gaming is different than other media, because when you are playing a game, you are part of telling the story.
Yeah.
And so you have a sense of agency that you don't necessarily have when you're watching a TV show or watching a play and you are here. Then everybody on the stage is making the choices and I am going along for the ride. But when I'm playing a game, I have a choice, which gives me a certain sense of ownership of this character's being and power. And if you can see yourself in a hero, then you can see the hero in yourself, right? And then you can take that out and you can have agency. And you can take that out in the world and be like, well, if she can do it, then maybe I can. And that, to me, Overwatch did that with such like a tremendous amount of force. And then the gaming community, so lovely, so artistic and supportive and wonderful. And I know people talk about the toxicity in game playing, and I know it's there, but I firmly believe in feeding the wolf I want to feed. I firmly believe that if we focus on, if we lift up the voices that are doing amazing things, and not so much give energy to the other, I am constantly amazed by the things people are doing in the gaming community. Video games, TTRPGs, all of it. I'm constantly amazed at the artistry, the support, the kindness, creativity. It's just, it's very inspiring to me. And once again, it gives me a stronger sense of purpose, because they give so much. I want to give a lot back. And that's how I Am Fun Size was born.
Wow. Enough said, mic drop. That was just so amazing, and I could comment on all the points, but I agree with all of them. And as a gamer, you know, it's like there's so much beautiful stuff that has come of this, that it's such a wonderful time to be a part of all these various communities that are under the video game nerd umbrella. And I just feel like it empowers so many people. And as somebody who's been a part of that, and not just a part of it as lending your talent as an actor and your voice to certain things, but also as a symbol that is out there embracing a lot of this stuff via going to the Overwatch, league, or going to these conventions and being kind of that beacon that people can see, like, no, we're doing this. We're awesome. Like, I just appreciate.
And we're all doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all doing it together. That's the best part.
Yeah.
It's not us doing it and other people watching. We're all doing it together. If you don't play the game, we don't have a game.
Right. crazy.
It's much more fun. It's much more fun to do things with other people.
And finally, I have one last question. I'm gonna let my cat out of the room.
Oh wow! Oh, I thought you were gonna get props.
No. I wish I could. I wish that would be fun. I do have a Symmetra pop somewhere, but it's.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but that's a whole other.
I have Symmetra up here. There's that one right there.
Yes.
There's that one that's Symmetra as a quokka. There's that one up there, right there. That's her as like a pinup. And then there's Symmetra with my dog, Charlie.
Wow.
So many Symmetras. And then we have a Rampart here too, because she's.
I love it. You truly are one of my favorite people in the industry. You are so kind and generous, and I truly appreciate you coming on here and sharing. If people have not picked up your book, they can do so on Amazon. You also did the audiobook for it, correct?
Yes, I did.
So everybody, please check that out. We'll link that also in here. But I'd like to ask our guests, and I know it's going to kind of pale in comparison probably to what we've already spoken about, but as is the nature of this show, I like to talk about experiences that we've had that maybe can influence or inspire people in different ways. Is there an experience that you've had in your life, whether professional or not, that kind of changed you or gave you kind of a motivation of your own, or gave you some light when there was in darkness, something that maybe an experience you went through that sharing that experience might give somebody some, and it doesn't have to be the traditional thing. Like I talk about my experiences with my cats all the time that shape every part of the human being that I am now.
Well, that's me and my dog. Me and my dog should have our own podcast because he's brilliant. He's in the, he's the star of the book.
Heck yeah.
He's totally the star of the book. He gives advice. I don't.
Yeah.
There is, and it's not so much an experience as a conversation that I
Fantastic.
had. You heard me talk about my brother and how much I love him and how exceptional he is. Mm-hmm. And not only is he exceptional in all the things he does, he was an exceptional brother and an exceptional person to go through life watching. So when I was younger, I wanted to be my brother. I just wanted to be him with long hair. Like anything that he did, I wanted to do it. And he was very accomplished. And he was doing all sorts of things that I was like, so I was going to do those things. I was going to do all of the things that he did. And then somewhere in junior high, he sat me down and he said, listen, there are some things that I do that you might not be good at or you might not be interested in. But there are things that you do that I can't do as well as you. And there are things that you care about that I will never be able to do. So please follow the things that excite you. Follow the things that you want to do. Follow the things that you feel you're good at and want to do more, because that's going to be the thing that gives you the happy life. That's going to be the thing that fuels you for the rest of your life. Now, that's my interpretation of it because I don't remember exactly the words he said,
sure.
But I remember the effect it had on me. And that was right around when I started to lean into acting.
Wow. Amazing and beautiful words to, I think, a lot of people we get. I think about myself, and you kind of, you see certain people, and I didn't recognize this for certain people of my life, but I had that similar feeling. I wanted to be like somebody, and I didn't really know if it was the thing that they were doing that I wanted to be like, or I wanted to be the result of who they were because of the thing that they did. And that's a very interesting way of looking at things, that we all have our skill set, and, you know, follow your passions. And being a good person isn't defined by your career either.
Absolutely not. Your passion does not have to be your purpose. Generally speaking, your passion is your weapon of choice to achieve your purpose. It's a whole different thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Anjali.
You can go on for hours.
I know.
It's
seriously.
so lovely talking with you.
I know you truly are a treat, and I like your personality and your energy is magnetic, and it is so empowering. And I thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for coming on the show. As a final thing, I know we talked about kind of the most, you know, your Critical Role stuff, your D20. Is there anything else that people should be looking out for?
Stray Gods, the role-playing musical is coming out on August 3rd. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that TV show. I'm on a certain TV show in a few weeks on CBS. Keep your eyes out. Yeah, those games. I think like that's enough to look at. And then
all right,
the book.
We've got plenty to do, and yes, please check out the book. Anjali, you truly are a gift. Thank you again for coming on, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, life, year, everything.
You too. Well, I hope this isn't the last time we talk now that we've reopened this line of communication. It's been really lovely talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too, Anjali. Take care. Gosh, all that emotion of smiling and laughing, it has made me sweat. That's the kind of energy that Anjali brings. She's so, like, if you're talking about the type of people you wish and hope to work with and experience in this industry, it is her. She embodies all of the principles and traits of somebody who I consider to be like a great person in this industry, helpful, talented, enthusiastic about everything. It's just so nice to know that we have ambassadors like Anjali who are just, they give their time to talk with people like, I'm not degrading myself here, but say about people like me, but like on so many different podcasts. And she has so many irons and different fires, and it just goes to show how much she cares about people and her peers and the communities, because she's out there constantly bringing a ray of light whenever she can. So this was really awesome to kind of reconnect with her after all these years, and to know that she's just like, that's just who she is. It's not an act. She's just a fun person. She's really fun with a very big heart. So check out her book if you haven't. Guys, thank you so much. As we let you know in the previous episode, if you haven't watched it, we're going to be offering an opportunity for people to watch episodes first on our Spotify Premium that you can subscribe to, and it helps us out, and you become part of the fam. You become a boxer. And so check that out if you want to get episodes kind of first thing first. And you can also like and subscribe and review us if you haven't done that. I mean, at this point, if you haven't done that, I've got a bone to pick with you. I'm kidding. But yeah, go ahead and do those things, you know. Truly a pleasure as always, guys. We got more great guests coming, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye!